Hey, this is Professor Triplet, and we are continuing on. We're going to block out our lamp. Now, I have this photo here because I'm giving this photo along with the other ones took with the cell phone on a Flickr page. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that Flickr page right now. Let's see, I'll pull it down here. So this Flickr page shows the picture of the guy that I created. It shows the pictures that I took on the video, and then I included this one too, so you can just click on this and download like the original size or whatever you want. But this one's important because it has good measurements. Plus, I really think you should have this one inside of your inside of Maya as well, just because it's going to be a much better guide for when you're doing your curves to make a revolve. And yeah, I just thought it was important to have this one with a less perspective distortion. It'll make a model better in the end. So let's go ahead and get started and go back to Maya, and we'll pull this one in. So let's see here. Where's Maya? There we go. Okay, so I already have the dimensions copied off to a notepad right here. So that's the largest one. And I'll go ahead and just make a new plane. So there's my new plane. And we have 23.35 by 21.71. So it's huge right now, but that's okay. I just need to get the aspect ratio correct. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this to 1. So this is all repeat from the last video. Let's turn off the grid for right now. Let's go into our UVs. Pull this guy up. Now you can see right now, see how it tried to match it matched the profile, but that's not what we want, if we remember correctly. So go and grab these UVs, and I'm just gonna make sure snap is on, and then I'm gonna drag that right there. So there's there is a black line that goes around the 0 to 1 space. You just kind of have to look at it and find it with your eyes. It's hard to see a little bit, but it's there. And that's all we have to do. So close that guy and close that guy, and then object mode. So we'll do the same thing. We'll just say assign new material. Use a Lambert because the Lambert doesn't have any like specular to it, so you won't get any weird shine off of it. It'll be nice and flat. Okay, so let's go ahead, file, and then I just have to find where this guy is, which is actually off in my art files. Here we go. Still life, and I think it's the left photo. There we go. All right, so now we're doing good. Now the next thing we can do here is I can establish, by adding these 3 numbers up, I can basically establish the size of this. I think what I'm going to do though is, let's go ahead and just add them up. So I'm going to add up at least these 2. So 10.5 plus 2.8. And that would be what? 3, carry the 1, 2, 3. This is like 3.3 or 13.3, I think. And just because I want to make sure 10.5 plus 2.8. Make sure I got that. Yeah, 13.3. All right. Just double checking so I don't run into any trouble later. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and make that cylinder. This is just a reference cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and name this G. Actually, we'll call it ref underscore lamp height. Lamp body height. Lamp body height. That'll work. All right, so we'll do that. And then let's name this ref underscore measurements. I'll call it measure. Like that. And then this thing got renamed, so ref ortho. Even though they're far from true orthos. It's as close as we're going to get to it, though. All right, so now I've got this this cylinder in here. So I want to go to my channel box, and I'm going to dial in the actual height of this object. So let's go, height will be 13.3 is what I determined, and then obviously the radius is wrong, but we'll figure out the radius once we have this lined up correctly. So let's just go ahead and hold J on your keyboard and rotate this guy 90 degrees, like so. We're going to go into an orthographic view. So I think we're lined up with the front right now, which is fine. We'll rotate it later. Okay, so what we need to do is, we know that the base starts about here and then it goes to the top here, and that's got to match this right here. So if I grab just the reference plane and move this up, let's see what we got. So it's a little bit off. And also I have to take into account that there is a little bit of perspective distortion here. So I'm going to turn the grid snap off, and I'm going to say that it's probably going to be something like right about there or so. So what I'm actually doing right now is I'm actually lining up I'm going to resize my reference so it properly fits the size of my model. So let's go ahead and take this. I'm going to just hit X on my keyboard and snap it back to the center. So that's about right. That should be good. Oops. Yeah, we're going to stay in this view for right now. Now I'm going to take my pivot. So just hit D on my keyboard, and I'm going to pull my pivot down. And actually, I can go ahead and hit V, and I can snap it to the bottom of this this cylinder. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit D again. So from here, all I need to do is hit my scale tool and just start scaling this up till these things match. So what you're getting now is that the top right here and the bottom, which we deemed is the bottom part right here based on the middle, matches the size that we have here. Okay, so this should be about, if I was to take out a measuring tool, it should be about 13.3. So that's the size that we need everything to be. And at this point, we can take this, we can go to the radius, and we can just start scaling the radius out. So it matches. Now you can tell that we're getting a little problem because this doesn't match up perfectly. So let me go ahead and I'm going to turn on shading and X-ray. Okay, so whatever object I have selected, it turns into sort of a see-through, but you can still see the object as well. So that's going to tell me how this is, matching up. I'm just going to grab the plane behind it, and I'm going to move it to the center. So just kind of eyeballing where I feel like the center of the cylinder is, because the cylinder is correct as far as the world space. The cylinder is in the center of the world. So we want to make sure that this reference matches that center. So now I'm just going to go ahead and move my pivot point again. So hit D, then hold V on your keyboard, and I'm going to hold V but only use the X-axis, and I'm going to snap it to the middle again. Hit D again, and now what I can do is I can go ahead and we'll take this. We'll make sure that we should have almost everything lined up correctly now. Now, why I didn't measure the actual radius of this, I don't know. In fact, now that I think about it, I may have that in a different file. But you know what? I'll pause this and I'll check really quick. Well, I was wrong. I thought I had maybe a measurement of the top in my files, and I just looked through them and I didn't. So I guess I probably did this. I did the same referencing the first time I worked through this. So anyway, we'll have to size it just by kind of eyeballing it. I could actually grab the actual object and measure it if I wanted to right now, but this will work fine. We're making an entertainment model. This doesn't have to be completely, spot on, accurate. It just needs to look good. So this will be fine. So we know now what the size of our object should be, and yeah. So let's go ahead, and the next thing is really just size out a few extra things and make sure we're where we should be. Really, from this point right here, you probably could just start working. But if we wanted to, we could, make we can copy some of these and start making other pieces to get the sizing more correct. So let's go ahead and we'll make another cylinder, and let me look at this piece again, and we have 4.4, and I'm going to make it 2.8 and see if it fits right inside of here. So let's go back to the new cylinder, make this 4.4, and then we're going to make it 2.8. I just want to make sure everything's lining up correctly. So we'll go like that. And actually, here I'm going to snap this. So I'm going to hit D, and I'm going to hold V and snap this to the bottom. Hit D again, and then I'm going to hold V and snap that to the bottom. And you can see, so my measurements look right. Okay. That being said, now we can change this to 10.5. And then let's hit D. Oops, I forgot to, there we go. I have to get out of this this little number there. So I'm going to hit D now and hold V and snap to the bottom, and then hit D again. And now I'm going to hold V and snap to the top of that. And there we go. That looks pretty much perfect. So I'm happy that my measurements are correct. And once we have these established, really from here, it's just a matter of, you can fill this in with more primitives. So for instance, let's go back to our poly modeling. I can make a cone, and I can go ahead and just turn it this way, and let's just start scaling it up and see what we come up with. So let's just move it about right there. Should be about right. Now, of course, we're gonna work on, the shape of this, and we could also even use a revolve for this too, if we wanted to. But you could probably do this with just a cone and work on the shape, and we'll do that. We'll actually just leave this cone here. So we can start building from these pieces that we're putting here. So we're just blocking it out at first, and if I go into my perspective view, we should start to see something similar. So one thing that we've forgotten about is our original orthographics. So I want to get these lined up and sized correctly so that I could see that these are working with this object. So let's go ahead and select this. Let's give this its own layer. And we're going to call this ref underscore. I'm going to call it ortho. Oh, not ortho. Ortho. There we go. And I'll just make this like that color. Oh, yeah, it doesn't like it when you name it something else. So hold on, layer. I forgot I already had that. Okay, so we can hide that for right now. And I can grab this guy, and let's actually select all these, and we'll group them. Control G. I'm going to group everything. And then I'm going to just hit J on my keyboard and start to rotate. Actually, didn't do it the right way. Let's grab just the group, hold J. For some reason, it's rotating everything separately. So realistically, the only thing we really need to rotate is this, but we want this pivot point based on the cylinder. So let's go ahead and just move this pivot point. I hit D on my keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and hold V down, and I'm going to use the center here and just slide that up to there and hit D again. Now if I hit J and start rotating this, you can see once we get 90 degrees here in the X rotation, or negative 90 I should say, now we're pointing in the right direction, and we've got this thing basically sized out. It should work properly. And so let's go ahead and grab our reference, and let's just scale this up so that this thing starts to match. And we'll just hit W, hold V on the keyboard, and we'll just snap down to the bottom. See if we can get this thing to work. So I'm going to go to my right view or left, either one works. And I'm going to start scaling this. You can see now like how much the perspective distortion really is not the best to work with, and that is why I brought it up in the video. The previous videos is that the perspective distortion is just kind of a mess. So we're basically looking at like this point here and this point here that you see right at the edges is going to be where that straight line is. And that should work pretty well with these points down here too. So let's see if I move that a little bit, like maybe like that. And if we look at that now, hey, look at that. The cone is pretty much matching up, even though we've got lots of distortion in the picture. But it looks pretty close. And even the center, you can see the center line of this cylinder right here and this cylinder right here is almost exactly in the center of this. So if we move this just a tiny bit, so we're pretty close. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. And that's about how you would size these up and start to block it out. Now, of course, there's a few more steps to blocking it out. For instance, you're going to make a sphere, and with a sphere, you don't really have to worry so much about the exact size in your radius per se. Just snap this to the top here. So I'm going to hold V and snap it to one of these verts. And then, by the way, if you don't know how I'm doing that, this widget here, make sure you're locked on the one widget. You hold V, and then you just move off to one of these verts. But what happens is it only snaps it in this horizontal or vertical fashion. So if I wanted to come here to the radius, I could, and I could just kind of size this up. And let's see, it should be about right there. So now it looks like I have to pull it down a little bit. And we'll just pull that down just a wee bit. Okay, it needs to be radiused up a little bit more, but you could just scale it too. It doesn't really matter, because at some point we're just gonna delete the history and freeze the transformations and all that stuff too. So even though the reference shows this a little bit off, I'm going to leave it in the center, because I think that's just the problem with the pictures lining up. I'm not going to actually move that. I'm assuming that my geometry should all be centered properly. Okay, so we're doing pretty good here. That's one part. We don't need to block this out, because this is actually going to be something we're going to start building with a curve. I'm going to show how to build this with a curve and a loft, and then we'll go off of the curve and the loft. This piece right here will actually start with probably just a cylinder, and we'll build the side piece with a cylinder. This piece is going to be done with a curve. So a lot of this stuff will be coming in the next chapter when we actually begin modeling this. So as of right now, I mean, if you wanted to get specific, you could go ahead and start laying the curves out. So let's just look at this for a second though. Let's go back to our perspective view, and what we need to do is take this guy here and let's rotate it. Let's see if I can figure out my rotate. There we go. Okay, and let's look at it from a side point of view. So I'm going to hide this for a second. This is why these, having these layers is so important. Now it looks like it pulled it out of this layer. So I'm going to grab this, right click, add selected objects, let go. Now when I hide that, there we go. Okay, let's go to the right view. Oh, let's take that back, left view. So we're in our left view. It looks lined up nicely. I just wanted to make sure everything was lined up well. But you can see right here how this this top piece doesn't look as good. So we're gonna line it up to this one, because this one's more accurate. So I'm just moving it up just a tiny bit, and maybe about right there, and that'll be fine. That'll be fine. We're not going to get too scrutinizing on that. We're going to have a curve that goes around here. We can do this with a curve as well and do a loft. All of these will be curves that we extrude a curve, or I should say extrude a face along a curve to make those. These handles and the structure piece here. This will be a cylinder that we cut and then extrude out. So we're right there. We're pretty close. I guess the only other thing I would probably block out would be this cylinder piece right there. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a cylinder. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. Let's bring it over here and kind of center it. Now in the picture, it's not centered 100% on that piece. But I think I might just cheat it a little bit and leave it centered, since as long as it looks good, I'm happy, and I think it'll be fine. I think, in fact, if you look at this, like, you can tell my rotation wasn't perfect on the picture, because you can see this handle on top. You can see the arc going there. If it was completely straight and that you couldn't see the backside, then I would say it was perfect, but it's not. So we're going to just pretend that that's the way it should be. And then we can grab the radius of this and just, oops, that was the height. Let's grab the radius. Let's move it out. That's pretty close. Now at this point, these are all still primitives. So I'm not going to make them, I'm not going to delete the history or anything yet, because I may want to change like how many subdivisions there are, and you know, I may need to adjust these a little bit. Okay, but I'm just trying to get everything blocked out, and you know, we'll go from there. So the modeling will start in the next tutorial. This is the basic block out, and just to be more complete, I will go ahead and actually I'm going to make another sphere. Let's not use that. Let's make another sphere. This time I'm going to turn it. So I'm going to actually turn it 90 degrees and bring it over here, maybe about right there. And now I'm going to create a larger radius on this. Now you'll notice this thing's never going to quite fit on this this curve of, so what I'm creating though, I'm sorry, I never mentioned, what I'm creating is this lens, this, I guess you call it a lens or cover for the light. And what I want to do is probably line it, let's hold V and align it with this right there. Okay, so I was snapping into this vert. Anyway, I want to align that with the cone, and what this is going to eventually turn into is something more like this. So it's going to be scaled. And let's go ahead and just increase the radius a little bit. Oops, radius. Maybe move it back a little bit. Okay, so I'll probably have to crunch it just a little bit more. And let's move it forward. And there we go. Let's see this now. Yep, that's pretty close. Now we are going to turn these into quad spheres. We're not going to leave them like this, but this is just the block out stage, so we're okay. And what haven't I done? Well, shame on me. I haven't been naming my stuff. So every so often, you know, I get ahead of myself, you know, and then I have to stop and go, you know, G underscore. Actually, since this is a ref, I'm going to say ref, you know, light top underscore top. So this is a naming convention thing. I'm going to segue just for a second. When you name stuff, you really want to have like a designation of, like, let's say reference. This is always going to be known as a reference. What is a reference of? It's of a light, and where's that light? On the top. You don't want to put top light because you're really looking for a reference for the light on the top. So it's just the way that you organize your stuff is not by the description of where it's at. You want to organize it by what is it first. 'Cause it's kind of like noun and then adjective, you know. All right, so this is the front. So then, you know, I could just grab this, Control C, Control V, and then put, you know, front. Like that. Put that over with this. I don't know how this got over there. All right, so then this is, I don't even know what I call this. Let's just put this as, this is actually probably going to turn into an actual piece of geometry. So I'm actually going to name it G underscore, I don't know, side. Oh, look at me. I'm putting down, I just did exactly what I told you not to do. All right, so it should be like G, the problem is I don't even know what this thing would be called. We're just going to call this, I don't know. I'm just going to call it piece. Piece side. I really don't know what to name this thing. So, all right, I'm going to move this just a little bit out here so it's sticking out, and it'll be accessible. Okay, so we got all that. I never named my group. So actually all of these reference pieces should be in the group. Call this ref GRP, and I can put these in there too if I like, because they are references as well. Okay, yeah, this thing is is just about ready to get moving. So that's the block out stage, and then after this we will start actually modeling this thing. Alright, so that's it for now, and we'll see you in the next video.